So how do you acquire the perfect livestock guardian dog? I'm going to give you 10 steps for success and tell you it's not as simple as just going out and buying a breed of dog. You have to build a livestock guardian dog for yourself. So let's talk about the goals for a livestock guardian dog. First of all, they need to stay with the sheep 24/7, all the time, even in the worst weather, when it's raining, when it's snowing. They sleep outside with the sheep and they never leave the sheep. The second goal is that they should be able to kill coyotes and even discourage bear and mountain lion if you've got that in your region. So you're going to need at least 2 dogs, because 1 dog staying up against a pack of coyotes, that's a lot to ask. But 2 is pretty able to do that. And here's some considerations for you, what you need to do. First of all, livestock guardian dogs are not your pets. And secondly, at least half the dogs you purchase won't work out and you'll have to get rid of them. So you need to be mentally prepared to cull these dogs. So how do livestock guardian dogs fail? Well, first of all, they will be useless if they stay on your front porch and wait to be fed and they don't stay with the sheep. The second way they fail is when they start to wander and cause neighbor problems. The third way they fail is that they will kill your lambs when you're not looking. You'll just start finding some dead lambs out there, and they're just like a pup, and they just want to play with the lambs, but they end up killing them. Now, if you got a livestock guardian dog that stays on the porch, won't stay with the sheep, he wanders around and causes neighbor problems, or he kills the lambs, nobody's going to want a livestock guardian dog like that. And you won't be able to sell them or give them away. Because when you're honest and tell people why you're getting rid of the dog and tell them that he's got this problem, they're not going to want him. So you're going to have to take the dog to the dog pound, and they're probably going to be euthanized. So you need to be mentally prepared that any dog that tries out to become your livestock guardian dog may end up dying at the dog pound if they can't do the job. Again, you're not buying a pet, you're buying a working animal. And you need to get rid of a bad dog immediately. If you keep a bad dog that doesn't work out chained up on the porch until you sell it, that same bad dog will influence any new good dog that you might buy to adopt its bad habits. You can't mix bad dogs that have bad habits with good dogs and hope the good dogs don't pick up these bad habits. Now here's an example. I had a female dog that produced a really good litter of pups. And after we sold her pups, she started to wander for miles and look for them. I should have gotten rid of her immediately. But I made the mistake and I thought she'd get over it, but she kept wandering, and then she taught my other dogs to do the same. They wandered into a lady who moved to Tennessee from California, over 2 miles away from my house. This lady was not right and would feed my dogs hot dogs and table scraps and then call the law on me for my dogs being on her property. So I had to take 4 dogs that she deliberately fed to the pound because I did not immediately get rid of this one female dog that wandered. First, I took the mother and her pup to the pound because she fed them constantly, and I kept the other 2 dogs to see if they could work out. But these other 2 dogs had also learned this bad habit, and then they went back to the lady from California's house, and then she took me to court over it. So before I went to court, I had to take these last 2 dogs, and they were really good dogs, to the pound, all because I did not cull the mother dog that had wandered in the first place. You have to cull bad dogs immediately, just like you have to cull bad sheep. So how do you acquire a good livestock guardian dog? Well, you use Craigslist or LSM because no animals are able to be sold on Facebook Marketplace. And on Craigslist or LSN, you type in LGD or Great Pyrenees. To me, Great Pyrenees is the best breed you can get. They're very protective. They're less likely to kill the baby lambs, and they're not prone to wander. They stay with the sheep. They're also more available and cheaper, so if you have to cull or replace them, you're not out a lot of money. Now, I've also raised Anatolian shepherds, and they're great dogs, but they'll range up to 2 miles from your house to find and kill coyotes. And so if you live in a very rural area without neighbors, yeah, they can work. But if you live in an area where there's any people living close to you, you're better off with Great Pyrenees. The third point is don't buy these expensive exotic dogs just because they're bigger or some reason, as you may have to cull them. They may not work out and you have to cull them. and you spent like $1,000 for them, never pay more than $300 for a livestock guardian dog, because you may have to get rid of them. And so you don't want to have a lot of money tied up in something that's exotic or expensive. The fourth suggestion is to buy 2 dogs out of the same litter at the same age, and they can roughhouse with each other, and they won't roughhouse with your lambs. So you buy them when they're like young and they want to play. They can play and beat up and chew on each other, and they won't bother your lambs. So you need at least 2 dogs at the same time. The fifth suggestion is to buy them when they're 8 weeks old, so they're young enough to bond with the sheep, because it's hard to teach an old dog a new trick. So 8 weeks, as soon as you can get them, as young as you can get them, and they just got weaned, that's when you get the dogs. You don't buy an older dog. The sixth point is to buy them from a farm and not from some city dog breeder. Their parents need to be actual livestock guardian dogs and not show animals. Most of these dog breeds, even the Great Pyrenees, they've lost their primary instincts to guard animals due to inbreeding, and humans not selecting them to keep only those animals that have these guardian traits. Most dog breeding is based on how the animal looks and not how it performs, so make sure the dog's parents are actual livestock guardian dogs guarding sheep or goats on a farm. The point number 7 is that the time of year you buy your dogs is also important. Now, the sheep will give birth, if they do it naturally, in January. And so you want to buy your 8-week-old pups in like May or June or later, when your lambs that are born in January are at least 4 to 5 months old, because these pups are going to want to play with these very smallest lambs that have just been born, and they may learn to bite on them. And a really small, weak lamb is just too tempting. So you want the lambs to be old enough that the pups won't kill them outright when they're very young. Point number 8 is to keep the pups locked up with the sheep. Keep them locked up in a paddock, and all the sheep in the paddock away from your house. Not around your house, but away from your house for at least the first 2 months. This will bond the pups with your sheep, and this is probably the most important thing I can tell you. Keep the pups locked up with the sheep away from the house. Point number 9 is do not pet your dogs excessively. You can pet them when you feed them, but that is it. They're not pets. If you pet your livestock guardian dogs, they will bond with you and not with the sheep, and you won't get them off your porch to do your job. You will have to cull the dogs if you pet them. It's your fault. So do not pet or love on your dogs until they're at least like 2 years old. At that point, it's a little bit different. But when they're young, don't let them bond with you. Don't pet on them. And point number 10 is to feed your dogs where you feed your sheep. Don't feed the dogs on your porch until they're at least a year old and have already bonded with the sheep. Now, in the spring, summer, and fall, the sheep sleep on a hill behind my house, and I feed the dogs off the porch because they're near the sheep. But in the winter, I feed the dogs in the paddock with the sheep, where they're locked up for the winter, and they even eat the sheep food. So feed your dogs where you feed your sheep. That's the last point. Now, one of the benefits of buying Great Pyrenees is that they're white, and the St Croix are also white. So they blend in with the sheep, and that helps fool the predators as to how many dogs are actually with the sheep. You know, when they just stand up, they start barking. They can't tell which are sheep and which are Pyrenees. So the Pyrenees are perfect for the St Croix. The second thing the Pyrenees have going for them is plenty of hair for sleeping outside in the winter, rain and snow. And they have so much hair that if they're bitten by a coyote, the coyote's just going to get a mouth of hair. Well, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching the video.